There's a lot of great resources that cover how the music business works, both on the internet and in books. The problem with these resources, though, is that the information tends to be too in-depth on one particular topic while not being in-depth enough on other topics. Now, I'm not claiming that this is an end-all be-all video for understanding the music business, nor is this to act as legal or business advice for you. I just want to help clear up some of the mess that others have made in poorly explaining how to make money from your music. The first thing to understand is there are two halves to a song. You have the composition and you have the master recording. The composition refers to the unique qualities that define a song, like the lyrics, the melody, and the structure. When the composition is recorded, this is called the master recording. A single composition can have many master recordings. For example, remix, live versions, radio edits, covers of the song. Alternate versions of a master recording can sometimes be controlled by different labels or artists, and you as the creator of a composition can be paid every time that an alternate version of the master recording is created and sold. The term songwriter applies to anyone who creates original compositions regardless of their role in creating the composition. The songwriter is not just the person that writes the lyrics. It's also comprised of the composer, aka the beat maker. It can be the band members that play the instruments. It can be the producer. When a group of songwriters works together, it's referred to as a collaboration, and each person in the collaboration is called a co-writer. Each co-writer owns a percentage of the composition and the master recording, and they're all entitled to publishing royalties based on that ownership. Anytime that a master recording is used, the person using it must first obtain the right to use the music. That's called a license. No matter where you are, if there's music playing, somebody paid for a license. Whether it's a radio station, streaming music to your phone, or even the music you hear when you're at the grocery store. A royalty is a percentage of profit paid to a creator or owner for use of the composition or master recording that they created. There are 5 types of royalties: performance, mechanical, synchronization, print music, and grand rights. There's also a 6th royalty called microsync, which covers internet-based podcasts and videos, but we'll talk about that later. Each royalty covers a different aspect of how a composition or master recording is licensed to be used. Unfortunately, the process of issuing a license and paying it out takes a lot of time and resources to track and monetize. It's impossible to do yourself. And so as a result, registration with the proper royalty collection society ensures that your work is tracked and that you're paid for your work. Most songwriters and composers belong to several different royalty collection societies as a result. A royalty collection society is also referred to as a rights organization. In most cases, a rights organization handles only one of these types of royalties that are issued. For example, performing rights organizations, or PROs, handle only performance royalties. PROs have 2 types of license that they administer: a writer's license and a publisher's license. Anyone who releases their own music should register as both a writer and a publisher with their PRO, because you're entitled to both of these types of royalties for every song that you create. The hardest thing to comprehend for most people just entering the music business is understanding that there is no pay scale. When you start a new job, typically you're told your salary and you're provided with a path to earn raises and bonuses, but this isn't the case with the music industry. Royalty pay rates are constantly being renegotiated by the royalty collection societies, and every country has its own set of rules and regulations about how royalties are calculated and paid out. Many countries also have their own rights organizations, and if you're not a part of that country's royalty organization, then you'll probably not get paid for certain royalties from the licensing of your music in that country. It can get really confusing, and so this is why we need royalty collection agencies. I'd love to explain each royalty type at length, but that would be like tons of videos. So I'm not going to leave you hanging though. In my own pursuit to understand royalty collection and get a better grip on all of it, I put together a reference guide for myself so that I could kind of quickly glance and know which royalty collection society handles each type of royalty. I also felt that I needed to better understand what licenses were granted under each royalty type. So I kind of compiled all this information together over a course of time, and I'm going to share it with you as a way of just saying thank you for making it this far into this video. I'll include the download link in the description box below. So back to royalties. What I want you to understand and take away from this conversation is pretty much that if you're not registering with the proper rights organizations and collection societies, then you're not going to get paid all the royalties that you're due. It's like working and leaving the money on the table for somebody else to take, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So it's also important to note that your music, depending on where and how it's used, earns different royalty rates. Another important thing is that some collection societies pay royalties for both the composition and the master recording. So it's like a double whammy. A good example of this would be Sound Exchange. Sound Exchange pays digital performance royalties to both the featured artists on a sound recording and the copyright owner of the recording. So a situation where this would apply is if you're a beat maker who self-releases your own music. You should be registering as a featured artist on the master recording of the song and the composition of the beat in this case. I actually explained this in my last video titled Buying Beats Online, Questions Every Artist Should Ask. I'm going to try to remember to include a card at the top of the screen for that. The next thing I want to talk about is copyright. A copyright is not the same thing as a trademark. Although they share similarities, they definitely differ in that copyright protects artistic and literary works, whereas trademarks are geared more for protecting companies' branding, like a logo, for example. The copyright to a song belongs to the songwriters, and ownership can be split among multiple co-writers and their respective publishers. Copyright law protects songwriters by giving them exclusive rights to grant or deny the reproduction, distribution, and performance of their work. It also gives the owners the exclusive legal right to print, publish, perform. You can do like a video of it or record literary, artistic. Anyways, you can authorize other people to do the same things. So when you write a song and record it, you automatically are guaranteed ownership of not only the recording, but also of the composition, whether you register your work with the Library of Congress or not. The minute you create something, you own the copyright to it. Since there are two halves to a song, there is also two types of copyrights that must be filed. One is for the master recording. That's Form SR. And another for the composition, which is Form PA. Although registration with the Copyright Office isn't required, there are some benefits to registering your work. The first being that if someone steals your song or uses it without your permission, then it provides the court with documented evidence that you own the copyright to your work. Furthermore, if you want to file a lawsuit, you cannot file a lawsuit for copyright infringement without first registering your work with the Copyright Office. Another reason that you would want to copyright your music would be it's considered as a valid form of evidence in a court proceeding. So if you were trying to prove that you were the original creator of a song or a piece of music, then what better way to prove your case than by having it registered with a government entity? the government entity that's in charge of copyright and copyright infringement. I would rather be on that side of the courtroom than on the other guy's side, for sure. Another reason that it's good to copyright your music is that it enables you to claim damages and attorney's fees as a result of the infringement, because you're going to have to file a lawsuit, and filing lawsuits takes money. So a copyright puts others on notice, basically, that your work is protected and that it's legal and that you're the legal owner. And as well as there's an added benefit to it that a lot of people don't even think about, but it's one of the more prominent ones, and that's just simply registering your work kind of makes you look more professional, especially to publishing companies. If you want to synchronize to movies, TV, games, I don't necessarily know that it's a bad thing to do it. It can get costly though, and that's where it becomes, somewhat impractical in some cases. So you have to kind of figure that out for yourself. Now, music publishing refers to the business of making money with your music as the copyright holder of the music you write. The minute you write your own composition, you are your own publisher unless you've given away that right in part or in whole to another entity, such as a record label or publishing administration company. Publishing companies represent songwriters, not artists. Many artists, especially the more well-known ones, will typically request to be listed as a songwriter, regardless of whether they contributed to writing the lyrics or not. This is just a money grab, is all it is. It's, they want to get some of the publishing royalties too, and you can't really blame them, especially if it's somebody who's like a really big name. They're kind of putting their stink on it to make it make money for you. You can choose to act as your own publisher or work with a publishing company, and each has its own benefits. Publishing royalties are earned by each co-writer, and the percentages paid to each of them is outlined in a legal document, also known as split sheets. Split sheets let the publisher know what percentage of the composition or master recording belongs to each co-writer. It's typically broken down in percentages of 100. Split sheets are something that you should have handled probably before you sign with a publisher. I'm pretty sure that they won't even fuck with you, like if you don't have them and there's more than one co-writer. Just get those split sheets in order. It's protecting everybody. The songwriter's relationship with the publishing company would originate with a legal agreement as well. The agreement provides the songwriters payment in advance of the royalties being generated in exchange for giving the publisher partial or sometimes complete ownership of those compositions. This is what's called a co-publishing agreement. Now, the co-publishing agreement typically allows the songwriter to retain 100% of the writer's share of royalties, while a portion of the publishing, aka the composition, is given to the publishing company. It's not a bad deal considering what you're getting in return, but that also depends on what you agree to in your contract. You should always read the entire document you're signing. Never let them pressure you into signing anything that you have not had the time to review, no matter how much money's involved, no matter what they're offering, or what they're telling you that it says in the document. Additionally, I think it's wise in those situations that you have a lawyer present, or at least read over the contract before you sign it, because they may catch something that you didn't even know was in there, and then they can assist you in renegotiating the terms of the contract. Typically, in a co-publishing agreement, there are going to be some demands the publisher wants. And they're going to have to be met contractually. Now, I don't want to make it all sound bad, because after all, the publisher is taking like partial or total ownership of the publishing rights. But in exchange, this means that they stand to benefit financially from the composition that you created. So they have more of an incentive to support and generate royalties on behalf of the composition, which benefits you as well. And they do this in two different ways. The two most common that I can think of are where they would pitch, the recording of the composition to, music supervisors in games, movies, and TV and commercials. But they also pitch songs to major record labels for bigger named artists to record the songs. So it's not a bad deal, and you can earn quite a good amount of money and develop a reputation for the quality of your music in doing this. It's just a matter of getting signed with the right publishing company. Now, publishing companies aren't responsible for distributing your music. They just act as a middleman between you and the music supervisors and record labels. And they also tend to be pretty well-connected people. They definitely are on the inside crowd that a lot of us on the outside crowd don't have access to at, the home studio level. So it's worth a look into at the very least. Just be careful when you're signing anything, do your due diligence and don't be stupid. Music distribution is the way that recorded music gets into the hands of consumers. Music distribution companies act as a middleman between the songwriters, record labels, and retail stores. In 1999, the internet-based peer-to-peer platform Napster kind of changed all that, and Napster made it possible for anyone to get online and download music directly to their computer, albeit illegally. But the practice was loved so much by its users that in 2003, Apple, which was only a tech company at the time, launched an online marketplace for users to buy music legally. Fast forward to 2016, and the revenue of online music sales had surpassed physical music sales, and now I think it's safe to say that you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone still buying CDs and tapes and vinyl. Not that it doesn't happen, but it's just not as rampant as it once was. So what happened to music distribution companies? Well, the ones that couldn't find a way to adapt went out of business, while others changed their business models and thrived. Even still, many new music distribution companies were formed as a result, and a lot of them catered exclusively to independent artists and bands like you and I, the home studio DIYers. So a distribution company can only sell music to stores that have an account with the distributor. And typically they provide lists of their partnerships and affiliations in writing, either in the contractual agreement that you would sign with them or somewhere on their website. They also offer their services for a subscription fee, typically on an annual or monthly basis, but in some cases their fees are assessed project to project. I myself am with DistroKid. One thing to note is that online music stores such as Apple Music and Google Play will not directly negotiate with an artist or their management or distribute music on their behalf. There may be some that do, but they are few and far in between. The three most popular online distribution music companies for independent musicians are DistroKid, TuneCore, and CD Baby, all of which can place your music into a whole lot of fucking stores online, and that gets you access to a whole lot of real estate. And you don't really need brick and mortar buildings anymore. You don't need Best Buy anymore. You don't need Walmart anymore to sell your music. You can literally sell it through the internet, which is where a lot of people are predominantly listening to music nowadays. Although there's several free music listening platforms like YouTube and SoundCloud, the takeaway from this part of the conversation is that online music distribution companies have made it possible to pretty much distribute and sell your music all by yourself without help from a single person at a record label. And you also, in most cases, get to keep 100% control over your rights to your music as a songwriter, which is nice. So you guys have a good one, and drop me a like if you like the video. Thanks.